every step in the recording process is important, one of the most crucial is the final mastering of your song. This means each step leading up to mastering needs to be on point. Working backwards in our recording timeline, leave submitting your trackouts to the studio as your first step. This is why it's important to get them right before moving along the process of recording, editing, mixing, or mastering your song. Trackouts need to be rendered at a minimum of 24 bits. Here at bdsCovered, we use 24-bit as a minimum because it just allows for more headroom. Rendering at 16-bit just doesn't allow for enough headroom during mixing and mastering. Our entire recording workflow from recording to mastering may involve thousands of effects and operations. While the quantization noise and noise floor of a 16-bit sample may be undetectable during initial playback, multiplying that noise a few thousand times eventually becomes noticeable. Using a minimum of 24 bits will keep all the accumulated noise at a lower level. Our preferred bit depth, however, is 32-bit float. I like this bit depth because it's friendly on our processors and it completely eliminates the possibility of accidental clipping at any point in the process, going unnoticed and ruin your mix. I know this is often argued, but in my 30 years experience, going higher than 48 kilohertz sample rate just doesn't have any sonic benefit. It's just more taxing on your system and it takes up additional storage. The only time I'll normally use a sample rate higher than 48 kilohertz is when I'm recording something like a brass section or other symphonic instrument. It's not that it gives it a seemingly higher quality recording, it just tends to smooth out some of the shrillness in the high end. Additionally, trends in recording these days include adding some form of saturation. There's absolutely no benefit to recording at 98 kilohertz if you're adding dirt to that so-called pristine track. So submitting your trackouts in either 44.1 or 48 is fine, but we do, however, prefer 48. For those of you still unsure of the sample rate in the world of recording, I'll include a few links in the description to some videos that compare and explain the differences. Try to keep peak gain of each of your trackout between -10 and -5 dB. This isn't so much for the added headroom as much as it is for the intersampling peak distortion, which can start happening as low as about 4 dB. Also, if the tracks you're submitting are already peaking out, there will be no sense in going forward. You can't fix peaked out distorted tracks. And please do not normalize or hard limit when exporting. Leave the tracks in their natural state that gives us headroom for any processing it needs. Before exporting, organize and name each track properly. Be sure to name them for someone else, not yourself. Naming the lead singer's track Joe 1 and Joe 2 means nothing to an engineer. Simply name them something like Lead Vox Main and Lead Vox Harmony. When organizing your tracks, remember to ungroup or remove bus tracks. We want each individual instrument and or vocal track, not their sum track. If it's necessary to export bus tracks, be sure to name them accordingly, i.e. lead guitar bus or group drums. Once your tracks are organized in names, be sure to export every track from the same start and end point. This will ensure all your tracks are lined up correctly. And even though most engineers are smart enough to figure it out, don't leave it up to them to decide where you want that all-important guitar solo or ad-lib to come in. Once everything has been exported correctly, bdsCovered has a few standards for submitting your trackouts. First, zip all your trackouts in a single file. Be sure to label your zip file with the artist name, song title, the BPM, the bit depth, and sample rate that you used. Upload your file to Dropbox or similar app and share it to the email provided by the studio. As I said, providing solid trackouts can make or break your song. Be sure to communicate with your studio to ensure you're submitting trackouts according to their standards and ask questions if you're unsure. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my next video. Which DAW does your studio use, and does it really matter?